So the latest Star Trek Discovery episode, it featured a very touching scene with Adura correcting someone on the use of pronouns. So Adura was working with Stamets, and Stamets referred to them as a she. And prior to this point, nothing of pronouns or anything like that was brought up, but they thought it was finally time to address this. I don't feel like a female. I don't feel like a she. I don't feel like a her. Just say they and them. And Stamets acts about what you'd hope an actual mature adult would act like, just like, okay, okay. Let's watch this scene.
They're fast. They, not she. I've never felt like a she or a her, so I would prefer they or them from now on.
Okay.
So while I had very positive feelings towards the scene, a lot of people on Twitter didn't, and that's fine. I guess that's expected. There's a large part of the Star Trek fan base that is incredibly toxic. And I don't mean like the toxic part where they just won't like anything new. That's part of every fandom. Star Wars, Star Trek, heck, music. Like bands like Metallica can't put out anything without some fans just being like, yeah, past 1990, I'm not listening to their stuff yet. I'm going to have an opinion on everything, which is weird. And same with Stephen King, like if he published something after 1980, they're not reading it. It's just, those are like the things that I follow. And it's the same thing, that toxic part of the fandoms. That's just part of everything. So I try not to get too bothered by the gatekeeper fans, but it's more like the actual like toxic stuff where people seem to have gotten the wrong ideas, like almost like the exact opposite values out of Star Trek. And that's something that I can expand upon later in another video, which I would actually love to. But it was just like, well, the future that Star Trek represents is supposed to be, they're not supposed to care about words. And, I just said that the universe or the future that Star Trek inhabits, it doesn't actually exist. It's fictional. I know that's kind of a hard thing for a lot of people to realize, but it's a fictional universe. And it's part of a franchise that has been around for over 50 years. And so a lot of the commentary is a product of its time. You'll see, things that are pertinent to the 60s. The Klingons are clearly, they're clearly a metaphor for U.S. and Russian relations. They're at each other's throats in the 60s, and then come Next Generation time, the wall is down, So that's just kind of, the Cold War is over, that kind of thing. So yeah, my comment was, that's like, it's good that, the universe, doesn't, hold itself to like too much specifically because it needs to stay relevant to the time that it's made in, so it can make the accurate and good commentary on today, because that's pretty much like what a lot of people get out of Star Trek is a metaphorical commentary on today's issues, and especially when you have species like the Trill, which were first introduced in the Next Generation, though I think, not intentionally non-binary or transgender characters, but sometimes that's almost the best when you create something that can be commentary on something, but it wasn't intended to be that way. It's not forced. Things are completely natural. And things are really natural to say, hey, this person is a binary character, this person is a transgender character, when they have the memories of someone else implanted inside of them. So I think that was kind of the perfect avenue to really talk about these issues. Anyway, so after kind of my comments on that kind of stuff, someone kind of tweets back at me that, let's see, what did they actually say? This is proof of someone who never saw that episode of TOS where Lincoln called Uhura a N-word, and she didn't care. That's the future Star Trek is supposed to be. Well, okay, well, first, I know what episode that is. That's The Savage Curtain. Yeah, I've seen it several times. Doesn't mean that scene isn't any less cringy because I'm aware of it. And the fact that someone would bring up this scene to bolster a point says a lot about them. So let's watch this scene right now and discuss.
Bless me.
Excuse me, Captain Kirk.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Scott.
What a charming negress. Oh, forgive me, my dear. I know that in my time some use that term as a description of property.
But why should I object to that term, sir? You see, in our century, we've learned not to fear words.
May I present our communications officer, Lieutenant Uhura?
The foolishness of my century had me apologizing where no offense was given.
We've each learned to be delighted with what we are. The Vulcans learned that centuries before we did.
It is basic to the Vulcan philosophy, sir. The combination of a number of things to make existence worthwhile.
Yes. Philosophy of Nome, meaning all.
So assuming that word was even used in the 1860s, the commentary that we no longer fear words, so it's okay for you to say that, is just kind of... It's white writers talking down to black people, saying that racism wouldn't be a problem if you got over yourself. If you stopped letting it bother you, because it's not a problem. It's a little bit of like victim blaming. So I'm also a little bit troubled by what Kirk says. It says something like, we learn to be delighted with who we are. And what the hell is that even supposed to mean? So while I think the original series was ahead of its time in a lot of ways, expressing progressive ideals, it was also a show of its time. I mean, am I going to be going around shopping around clips to anyone who loves Voyager that hey, Captain Pike never felt comfortable with a woman on the bridge, so why in the heck is there a captain, a female captain, leading a Star Trek show? Or I just watched the final episode of Star Trek, the original series, Turnabout Intruder. Man, that is the most sexist garbage. And basically, the whole point of that episode was that women are too emotional to be good leaders. And I think it directly says that women cannot be captains in Starfleet. So, yeah, I mean, there's retcons all the time, based on, things like that. And we can't forget that a lot of shows, even like progressive ones, with a show that was made over 50 years ago, it's going to have some issues. It's going to have some cultural issues that that don't line up 50 years later, let alone 200 or 300 years later. So all these Star Trek shows end up kind of talking about issues in the time that they were made. So I mean, you could name any Star Trek show, and it'll be, you can almost kind of tell what kind of period it was made. Like Enterprise, shortly after, there was a lot of post 9/11 anxiety that went into that show with the whole Xindi arc and stuff like that. Things like that, just to give an example. So the answer in the future wouldn't be, it's okay to say harmful things because they no longer bother people. The answer would be, people no longer say harmful things because they respect each other. I mean, you can tell a lot about that scene by the people who commented on it on YouTube. In some of the commentary, it almost seems like a lot of alt-right garbage, where it just kind of agreeing with the sentiment, where it's like the people who are offended by things are the problem, and not the people who do the offending. Okay, well, that's all I'm going to say on this topic. So I will see you next time.